Welcome back, everybody. Please bear with the geese sound as we are actually on a lake. This is not a green screen, and for whatever reason, they're really animated tonight. So today what we're going to talk about is preparedness. Now, if you're watching this in the first couple days that this video has gone out, you're going to know exactly why I'm talking about this. However, issues related to preparedness and a lack thereof happen throughout the year, every year, very, very predictably. However, right now in the USA, as of when I'm recording this, we're going through a gas shortage. That's due to several factors, but it is what it is. So that's kind of what prompted me to make this video. And then additionally, I believe in a week or two, hurricane season starts. And I live in the Southeast, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. And that's a big deal because at any time, basically all of the amenities that you're used to can be taken out very, very quickly, and things get rough quickly. Additionally, many of you guys live in earthquake, flood zones, avalanche zones, all of those sorts of things. So there is a myriad of reasons why some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in today's video is a good idea no matter where you live. It's obviously going to be, some of the things are going to be prioritized, rather depending on where you live in your personal situation. But we're just going to walk through them, I suppose. So with that, gas, right? So we have a gas container here. This is a decent one. There's a lot of really crappy ones out there right now. And the reason for that, of course, is government. They ruin everything they touch. And a lot of the safety devices on them really do suck. So look for one that has a very simple safety mechanism on it. This one is, again, a good example. The jerry can style ones out there are a good example as well. They're pretty expensive, but they do a good job. The stuff with like multiple layers of safety tends to basically either leak or cause you not to be able to use it effectively as you want to. So having some gas stored up is always a good idea for a myriad of reasons. Right now, of course, we just had the pipeline go down, which is super random, but again, talk about hurricanes here. After a hurricane, gas is always out for a couple of days because the logistics just aren't there to support the demand that comes after a natural disaster. So I do recommend for storing that you store ethanol-free gasoline. So you may have to look around to a couple different gas stations depending on where you live to actually find ethanol-free gas. But that's what you want for storage because the stuff with ethanol in it just doesn't store well and doesn't perform well after it's been stored for a while. So just know that going into it. If you are continually using it, it generally speaking doesn't matter. Additionally, in line of power, and we're going to get into power a good bit more here later on in the video. We're going to rotate the setup here because I only have so much table space. Having some spare propane around is certainly a good idea, whether that be for grilling or just heat, or again, a myriad of use that natural, oil type products or natural gas type products are good for. Obviously, we're going to get into solar and those sorts of things later on in the video, but right now there's still no substitute for oil and gas in terms of power output. So having those items readily available is absolutely a good thing. Now, we went to that first simply because of the current situation that we're in. However, priority always should be, in my opinion, is going to be water. Now, water for doing a ton of things. Water obviously is super life sustaining, and I would definitely recommend storing some, prepared bottled water on hand. And the reason for that, as opposed to storing your own, which we're going to get into here in just a second, is that sometimes, you get a freak thunderstorm or something like that, and it cuts out power, or a tornado for a lot of us that live in Tornado Alley. Those things happen super, super fast, and you don't always have the ability to store water ahead of time. So having some stored readily all the time is a very good idea. That said, there's ways to store water if you know something is coming. So obviously like a hurricane like we just talked about. I like these little water bags here. These, I believe, are 3 gallons each. One just fell off there. Has a locking lid here, a very solid handle here, so that when you actually fill them up, you can actually carry it, and it can actually handle the weight of it. Easily washable as well, and not very expensive at all, and they're just a good size for lots of different uses. Additionally, if like a hurricane's coming and you have family of 4 or something like that, I definitely recommend that you have on hand one of the blivets that goes into a bathtub, and you just put it in there ahead of time. It fills itself up, and then you have a bathtub's worth full of water in just one item. So it's very, very easily usable. Most of them have pump devices to extract water from it, and that's a lot of water and should last you through most emergencies out there. Additionally, recommend some sort of filtration device. Kind of the big three out there on the market are the Aquamarina here that we have here, the Sawyer, and then of course the Life Straw. So with any of these three devices right now in normal conditions, I can just take this lake water here and drink it and be perfectly safe. It filters out, bacteria, viruses. Now, I'm not gonna do a full video on all of them, but they have different capabilities in terms of what they actually filter out and what is safe to drink with them. That said, if you guys don't want to do hours long worth of research, the answer is to get a Sawyer. It just is. The other two are fine in most situations. However, this one has some added capabilities that the other ones don't have. And I should also mention as well that pretty much everything I talk about here in today's video, with a couple exceptions, there'll be a link down below in the video description so you guys can pick them up. But this thing is fantastic. I really like the Life Straw and the Sawyer, but if I just had to have one, the Sawyer's good. It would be the one I go with. You can use it as an inline filter if you have like a Camelback or something like that. There's just a lot of different ways you can use it. And like I said, if you have this, I mean, you'll make it through pretty much any natural disaster, at least one anyway, because these things filter up to 100,000 gallons of water, which is crazy, right? So you're just not going to go through that as a regular person. Again, assuming that you have the way or capability to access, fresh water out there, whether it be a lake, a stream, whatever the case may be, this will get it done. Now, I realize a lot of you who are watching this are going to be like the head of the household men. I realize we have females out there watching as well. Everybody's welcome, but just in general, my audience, I think, is like 92% male. So many of you have wives, kids, whatever, who refuse to drink anything besides like bottled or purified or filtered water. Number one, they've never probably actually been thirsty if they have that mindset. But you can take other devices, simple ones like a bitter water filter, for example. It works okay at getting out the bad taste of most tap water in America. And additionally, if you really want to go hard, there are the standing ones that I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it will be rolled in here on your screen. And those ones are really, really good, because again, they can filter out most of the stuff that these actually filter out as well. And additionally, they make the water taste good as well. And I don't know why I can't think of the name, but anyway, it's on your screen. Speaking of water, you're gonna have some way rather to maintain hygiene. So this right here, I've had this for decades and it's gone with me on many military trips, hiking trips, camping trips, etc. And this is a solar shower. So basically you fill it with water and up here, and then you let the sun heat it up on the back. You just lay it out on like the top of a camper or on the external part of your backpack or whatever if you're hiking. And then we have our spout here at the bottom, and it's controlled here with this little lever. It's on and off, and you just hang it in a tree or whatever the case may be, and it works well, not as well as this. So this here is the rinse kit. I actually first saw this on Shark Tank. My wife is a Shark Tank junkie, and I really thought it was a good product for just a ton of different applications. So I think I have it set backwards here. I do. So basically here it locks. This is the top, locks in place. You can actually use it as a step stool as well if you want. It's pretty darn solid. Folds up here, and then we have our little hose or shower spade, if you will. And what you do is basically you just fill it with a hose, a regular old garden hose, and then you can pump it here. It has this pump system here, and that pressurizes it. And this thing's BPA free. You can drink out of it if you want to after you fill it up, and assuming the water's potable if you're going to do that. And then you can use it for a shower or rinsing yourself off if you're at the beach. There's any number of situations that something like this would come in handy. But again, speaking of just personal hygiene, should you not have running water or access to your shower as normal, this thing is, it's better than the solar shower I just showed you. The solar shower though works. It's just, you're probably not going to get shampoo out of your hair with that. Whereas with this, you certainly can. It's got plenty of power to it, and you control that based on how much power you put into it. And like I said, these are just really, really handy devices to have around. I keep this, you guys have probably seen it in the back of my truck at a lot of the range shooting sessions. And the reason is I wash my hands just to get all the lead off and stuff like that, and my face when I'm shooting suppressed, because I don't want lead poisoning. So I use it for that reason out there at the range a lot. There's just, again, so many uses for something like this. But of course, in a grid down type situation, those uses just increase, of course. So there is that. We're just going to kind of go through these items up here that you guys see. The biggest one, of course, is going to be this cooler. A good roto-molded, or if you don't want to go roto-molded because of price, there's injection molded coolers, but I recommend getting a roto-molded one. The reason is these things, if you guys have watched my videos on these, this is the blue coolers. I have videos on several different brands of them. They're really kind of amazing in a lot of ways. One of my friends recently had their refrigerator go out, and she called me, and as of right now anyway, when I'm filming this video, you can't get refrigerators, you can't get parts for weeks out across the country. Again, the logistics chain is just strained. So she was like, what should I do? Luckily, her freezer still worked, but her refrigerator side, she had one of those sectioned fridges. So I brought this very cooler over to her. She put all the food that was in her fridge in there and then just added ice and did that for like 2 weeks, literally waiting on parts for her refrigerator. Finally came in, and all of her stuff stayed good to go. And these things right here, if you watch my tests again, anywhere from 3 to 7 days will keep something cold, which is phenomenal. Again, your refrigerator will work to some extent as long as you don't open it. Something like this will work way, way, way better, and it's purpose designed for that. So keep that in mind. We've already gone over these water products here. We'll set those aside. Another important item, of course, is going to be medical. There's a myriad of ways that you can take the medical route for preparedness. We're just going to really gloss over it here. So first off, any type of drugs that you take that you're dependent on, whether they be over-the-counter or prescription, make sure you have a stockpile of those, especially if they're prescription. Some states I know don't allow it, but do what you can to work with your doctor to get backup prescription drugs, because again, let's hypothetically say right now that gas was just down all across the country and your doctor's 45 minutes away and he doesn't do visits or whatever. How are you going to get your medicine refilled? So that's why having backups on hand is very handy, and just having some basic stuff too, like Benadryl, aspirin, Motrin, those sorts of things, just for minor aches and stuff like that that could happen if you're working, cleaning up damage, things like that on hand are important. Now, of course, having something a little bit more capable is also good. This is, well, it's an old IFAC container, but basically I've put my own stuff in it. And there's a few things to prioritize, and again, you can go down this rabbit hole as deep as you want, but there's a couple things I definitely want, and we're going to get into like power equipment here in just a second. So if you're operating power equipment, one thing you want is the ability to stop the bleed. Tourniquets, the two I recommend, and I'm sure there's other good ones out there, it's just what I'm familiar with and what I've trained with, is going to be the CAT tourniquet here from North American Rescue. It's a fantastic tourniquet. It is combat proven for sure. There's a lot of servicemen in America and other countries right now that are alive because of these things. They're simple to use, really like them. And then I also like the soft T tourniquet. Either one of those is perfectly fine in my opinion. The soft T, if you don't know what you're doing, probably don't go soft T, go CAT. That's kind of, I guess, the way I would break that down. And then just some basic Band-Aids for bumps and things like that. Some antibacterial ointment to make sure stuff doesn't get infected again, because you might not have access to the hospital or whatever the case may be. Quick combat gauze. I realize this is somewhat controversial in the first aid community. I don't care. I like it. I think it works well from what I've seen in real life. So there is that. And some additional items, just basic gauze. Then we have again, more bandages, some gloves if you want to be working on other people that you don't know. That said, that decision's up to you if you want to actually do that. An NPA. NPA is just a way to clear the breathing area. A while back, well, probably 6 months, 12 months ago, somewhere around there. Oh, it was last summer, so 12 months ago. I did a video about my medical training saved someone's life. And basically, I didn't have an NPA on me, and the gentleman sustained a head injury. And I was having to physically clear his airway of blood manually with my fingers over and over and over and over again for 18 minutes, if you guys haven't watched the video. And an MPA would have been really handy in that situation, but I didn't have that. So, and then tape. You always want tape. And then the other thing you want, which is somewhere in here, is going to be chest seals. A hyphen is really, really good. It's one I like, because if stuff gets holes in it, like your chest or whatever the case may be, having a chest seal is a very, very good idea. As of what I'm filming this, again, Scott over at Kentucky Ballistics recently had some blunt force trauma and stuff go into him, and a seal probably would have helped him out a good bit. He ended up having to get a big old needle through his through his rib cage, and that's something you don't want if you can avoid it. And sometimes those chest seals and hyphens can work to prevent that. Not always, but in some cases, those are really kind of the big things that I look for. And then at that point, hopefully an ambulance will be on the way and you're just controlling it until then. But if not, chest seal, NPA, gauze, and a tourniquet are your friend. You definitely want them, as well as, again, any type of medication that you do take and that you are dependent on. So there is that. And then, as you guys probably see up here, we have food, right? So there's any way you can approach the food from a survival standpoint. You can just get a bunch of peanut butter and tuna fish if you want. It's an option. It works. It'll sustain you. But this stuff here is nutrient survival. They actually reached out to me, I don't know, a while ago and asked if I wanted to talk about their stuff. And I said, I have no idea if it's good or not. So they sent some out, and I've actually been eating a good bit of it over the last few months, just trying out all of their different stuff. And do I have one up here? Hold on. My two favorites, just to tell you right off the bat, is going to be their omelet. It's like a chicken scramble. Hold on. Yes, this is it. Home style scramble. It's fantastic. It's like legit tastes like an omelet. And basically all of these things, the Southwestern medley is really good too. It's got a bunch of beans and Southwestern stuff, as you can imagine, seasoning. But basically all of these types of items are sort of like, the way to think of it, in my opinion, is that they're an improved MRE, and that you just add water or hot water, depending on the item, to it, and then you can eat it, and it doesn't give you bubble guts like MREs do. So that certainly is a good thing. And this stuff here is fairly reasonably priced, and it stores for decades, which is fantastic. It has the date on there. One thing I really like about all of the options that they have, with I think the mac and cheese exception, with the exception of the mac and cheese, which I'm not dissing the mac and cheese, but with the exception of that, it really has a good fat and protein amount in it. A lot of the survival food that you see out there is just straight carbs, and you definitely want to make sure that you're getting your protein and fats as well. If you're going to be out there, again, grid down, you're working to recover stuff, you need those nutrients in you, and it also has a good vitamin complex as well. So that is food. Now we're going to reset everything up and continue on. Before I actually reset the table, I want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is Gunspot. For folks that haven't heard of them, it is an online site that has an auction style interface where you can buy and sell firearms, firearms related goods like scopes, suppressors, machine guns, machine gun mounts, whatever the case may be, just regular firearms, any stuff like that can be bought and sold over there once you make an account over at Gunspot. Very easy, intuitive website to use, and there will be a link here on your screen that you guys can use to punch in and go over there and check it out. We reset the table because, again, we didn't have enough room for everything in just one take, so we're going to walk through these items to consider as well. First off, we're going to go over power. I do recommend that you have an actual generator that's powered by either gasoline, diesel, or propane. This one here is a digital hybrid here from Champion. The reason it's called a digital hybrid is because it can take two different types of fuel. You can use gas, which is up top, and then it has a propane connection as well. And this is an inverter generator. Now I have a review of it, as well as several other generators. Check out my playlist. I have a generator playlist. And you guys can see all the details of it and what it can power and those sorts of things. But basically, when you're picking out your generator, one thing you want to look at, number one, is fuel consumption rate, which is why I really like inverters. Inverter generators versus a standard generator, they put out a pure sine wave type of electricity. So anything that's sensitive, like a computer or electronics like that, you can run them on there and not have to worry about power surges. It's more consistent. And then additionally, because of the way they're designed, they use way less fuel for the same amount of power as a traditional generator. That said, the downside of them is, and they're also way lighter and way quieter. The downside is, generally speaking, they don't go quite as high in terms of output power. So powering like your entire house from it, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying it's less likely that it'll be easy to do with an inverter generator, but just check out online. I'll put a link down below to it. There's a lot of different sites that'll tell you how much power you need to run what equipment. With something like this, you can run a ton of stuff with refrigerators, computers, routers, radios, TV, etc. all on one go. Air conditioner unit, small heater. All of that will run just fine on something like this. And there's a million brands of generators that have a super wide range of price. On the high end, Hondas and all of those things, which are great generators. But if you're not going to use it all the time, like you're not a construction crew in a remote area that's using it daily, I do like the Champion brand. I've had really good luck with them, and price wise is reasonable. I've literally never had a single issue with any of them, and I have 3 of them at this point, and they all work pretty darn well. So that's one way to combat power. Another way to think about power is with these power banks that we have here. This is the Jackery. I believe this is the 500, but I actually just recently reviewed the 1000. So obviously a larger unit that has more capability to power stuff, but just like this, something like this can actually power refrigerators as well, laptops, routers, all of those things. It can power all of that. We have our inputs here for USBs, micro USB, AC. It has 12-volt adapter as well. You can power this and charge it up rather via traditional, plug into your wall. Or what's really nice about it is it has these solar panels here that come as an option with it. And you can fold them up and basically you just set them at an angle. Obviously facing south is best if you're in North America. And you can charge these up throughout the day and just have continual free power. Now, the downside of that, of course, is that you're relying on the sun for your power. The downside of this is that you're relying on some sort of fossil fuel for your power. Having both is certainly a good idea. Having that redundancy always is good in a survival situation. And one thing that's cool about these as well too, this is the plug that goes into there and powers it via solar, but it also has the USB hookups. So that way if you just want to charge your phone or something like that in there, you can do so. It also has a micro USB on there and other options. These geese are going crazy today. I don't know what it is, but having that solar option as a backup definitely is good. But again, sometimes there's not always sun, so having the fuel option is good as well. Some other things to think about here in terms of that power-wise is just your basic power banks. Something like this, Rav Power and Anchor, those are the 2 brands I go to for sure for power banks, particularly Anchor. It's definitely my go-to. They make really good stuff for the price, and it's always worked well for me. They are not a sponsor. They never sent anything out, but I'm just telling you, both of them work really well. But in the event that a storm or something like that is coming, charge up all your power banks because you can get a lot of recharges out of multiple items, including your cell phone, which is definitely something that you want charged up on hand should you need it, because you want the ability to communicate with folks. Other communication devices I definitely recommend, and it's out here somewhere, but I didn't grab it to put it up here just now, is a solar power and or a crank radio. Having one of those, even in the modern times, is a good idea because if you just rely on your cell phone and streaming, number 1, your battery can go out. Number 2, cell phone towers can be down, particularly a hurricane type situation, and that won't work. So you'll need the actual old school radio on there. And then communications, those Baofeng radios, they work really well. Some people think you have to be a licensed ham operator to use them. After an emergency, I'm pretty sure they're not going to crack down on anyone. Just throwing that out there. So having your cell phone charged up, ready to go is a good idea. Having lights is also a good idea. And did I put it up here? I don't know, maybe. There it is, sitting right in front of me. But having flashlights, a very good idea. And if you're buying a flashlight specifically for a emergency type of situation, I recommend one that is rechargeable via common method. So like this is our stream light macro stream here, 500 lumen light. Full review is already up, and it charges via a standard USB port. So again, you could plug it into that solar panel and be good to go, or of course run it off a traditional generator and be good to go. And this is the Streamlight Wedge. Full review is coming on this. It's not done yet, but this one charges via a USB-C. Both of them have plenty of output for your standard, tasks that you would need to do at night, because again, security, which we're going to get into here a little bit more here in just a second, is important. And if you don't know what's around you at night, you don't have security, period. Easiest way to figure out what's around you at night is a flashlight. Additionally, some sort of lantern may be a good idea as well for indoor use. The ones I really like, again, it's like a Streamlight commercial, but they make really good ones that have power banks built into them. Reviews up on the channel, check it out. But because it has that power bank built into it, it's going to last a really long time. Those things last days on running continuously, and you can also charge other devices on them, which I do think is cool. Have some sort of ability to make fire. Lighter obviously is your good friend, as well as if you have some fuel, that helps as well. But making fires is a video for another day, but have a way to do it. Particularly if you live somewhere where you're going to have like nor'easters or, really bad winter storms. You want that ability to generate heat. If you don't have one of these, or if this is seized up because it's too cold out, those sorts of things, it is important. Additionally, having some means of chopping up stuff is a good idea. So that can come in many different forms. We have a real small 10-inch Black & Decker battery-powered chainsaw here. And again, the battery power could be charged on any of these devices, so it's a whole system. And then I also have a Husqvarna 14-inch standard chainsaw. So they're very useful. We had Hurricane Michael come through here, I don't know, a year or two ago, whatever it was. And I gave this to my neighbor who lives right over there because he had to clear out his lot, and there was trees down all over his deck and those sorts of things. So he used this, for hours and hours and hours straight. We just changed the oil and the battery. I have two of them. We just rotated the batteries. He was able to clear it out while I was able to handle the stuff I needed to clear out with my main chainsaw. But something like this is very inexpensive. And again, I have a video on this as well. You guys can check it out. Typically, I'm a big fan of DeWalt. Their tools have always worked well for me, as well as Milwaukee. But the DeWalt chainsaw that I compared this to, no-go, hard no-go. This one is cheaper and just better, in my opinion. But if you want full power, you definitely want to get a gas one for sure, if you're going to be doing a lot of clearing. But just for small stuff, these battery-operated ones, they do pretty darn well. Additionally, they have some ones that plug in to stuff as well. They're a little bit more powerful than these, but not quite as powerful as a gas one. That said, they're probably the least likely one that you're going to use in an emergency situation. So you're probably going to want either a battery powered one or a gas powered one, is my opinion. Additionally, you want to have a good axe, hatchet, or both on hand as well. A good budget hatchet I've been using lately. I'll roll in a picture of it here, but it's like 20 bucks on Amazon, and it's made by Schrade. And for the money, for the weight, it's been really good. I've been very happy with it overall. So that is that in terms of choppy stuff. Definitely something to take a look at. And then the last thing I'm going to touch on, as you probably guessed, as anybody who watches this channel knows, is going to be security. We already talked on that in terms of a light. Additionally, in a grid down type situation, many states, not all, I know it varies depending on where you live, will lift most gun laws. So like most stupid gun laws, like concealed carry laws and things like that are unconstitutional. So from a firearms perspective, there's kind of a couple things I want to think about here. So number one, you want the ability when you go out to get fuel for this, or whatever the case may be, to have a gun on you. Because if you guys haven't been seeing lately, as of what I'm recording this video, there's people, getting in fights, pulling guns on people at gas stations, and other types of tomfoolery are happening. And we've only been without gas as of what I'm recording this video for a couple days. Imagine if it was a week and how crazy it gets. So you want the ability to have that on you and not draw attention. So the way I would look at it is the priority for me would be a small gun. I don't care if it's this is Smith & Wesson J-frame. I don't care if it's this or, Glock 43X, a Shield Plus, whatever, some sort of easily concealable gun that when it's 99 degrees and 100% humid following a hurricane, you can carry on you relatively discreetly and still, stop a bad guy who's trying to rob you of the stuff that you have in an emergency. And then if you have the ability to, the other way I'd look at it is to get some sort of a long gun. I would recommend personally either an AR-15 or an AK-47, obviously a semi-auto civilian legal variant of a good quality. If you guys watch my channel, I have a million videos on these that will tell you the good ones and the bad ones. You can check them out. But the reason I would recommend a long gun, number one, is it just increases your lethality. Something like this is not super lethal. Obviously, it's deadly, of course. But, an AR or an AK increases that lethality because it's shooting rifle rounds. So You can go with anything from, something really basic like this setup here, which is just the Palmetto State Armory mid-length nitride kit with a light and iron sights. This thing can get a lot of stuff done. And if you get like a horde or a group of rioters coming through your yard in the middle of the day or the middle of the night, this thing would be a deterrent to them in most situations in a way that something like this simply isn't. It is what it is. There's really nothing else to say about that. It is a force multiplier versus, again, some small pistol. But, budget end, Palmetto State Armory makes good stuff. Daniel Defense, BCM on the higher end, LMT. The list goes on. I'm sure I'm leaving everybody out. I don't mean to. Sons of Liberty Gunworks, etc. They all make good stuff. Psionic, Centurion. You guys got me going down a list. If you're going to get an AK, if you're going to get an American-made one, I definitely recommend the PSA guns, and then any of the foreign ComBlock-made AKs, all good to go for that type of use. Mount yourself a light up, make sure it's zeroed, make sure you know how to use it. And that's another thing. If you don't have any of these things, these items, and you're looking to pick one up for the purpose of, using it in an emergency, get training and know how to use it. Having it is better than not having it, but you do want to know how to use it. And I know there's a whole bunch of people out there that are saying, what's the point of having it if you don't have any training? Well, I agree training is good, but there's a whole lot of little old ladies that have, stopped burglars with these things that have never fired it before they fired it in a gunfight. So having it is the priority in that case, and then obviously training after that. So we are losing light rapidly here, folks, but right now, like I said, is the perfect time to get prepared, because right now we are having a crisis in our country. And then additionally, over the next few months, it's probably going to happen multiple times in multiple parts of the country, whether it be any of the events that we talked about, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, whatever the case may be, it's coming. I promise you. And I also promise you that the majority of people in your neighborhood will not be prepared. So you being prepared takes care of yourself. If you want to invest in extra to help folks out, like I talked about, loaning out a chainsaw or something like that, that's up to you. Obviously, everybody's budget's different, and you have to make that call for yourself and your family. But I do urge you right now to be prepared, because when it comes time that the emergency hits, none of this stuff's going to be available. It's just not. It never is. There's always the videos of people gouging on generators. Well, guess what? They're selling it at a higher price because the demand is there at a higher price. Get it now at the lower price when the demand's not crazy. That would be my advice to you guys. So that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you've stayed this long, you can also sign up for my email list, which there's 2 different email lists. One of them is basically all of the videos since the last video. The reason for that is, even if you're subscribed here on the channel, and if you're not, please go ahead and do so. YouTube doesn't always show you all the videos that I put up. So that that email just sends out all the videos since the last email. And that way there's a straight line from me to you with no social media giants censoring my content. And you guys can consume that content through that email. And then additionally, we have a daily deals email up here on your screen. Any of this stuff goes on sale, it goes out in the daily deals email, and that way you can pick it up at a reduced cost, or at least in stock, depending on the item and the time that this is going on anyway. So there's that. You can also watch my content over on the Warrior Poet Society Network. My content over there is free. They also have premium content. There is a code down below in the video description for 10% off. If you guys are interested in that, they make cool videos like this, gun stuff, preparedness stuff, those sorts of things. One thing that just popped into my head, additionally, is finance, right? Financial preparedness. Now, this, again, is a gigantic topic that I'm not going to go down into the rabbit hole. But right now, if you can't buy this stuff, can't afford this stuff, start squirreling some stuff away. I recommend it because you don't want to have to be on credit and be buying this stuff that you can't afford when you absolutely need it. So definitely, if your finances aren't in order right now, there's do the best you can, as we are all doing, of course, to change that situation and get finances in order for yourself. So there is that. And I think that's pretty much all I have. That's the end of my spiel. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, you can post them down below as well. And then any of my other social media that you see here on your screen. But yeah, that's really it this time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.